Okay, so here we go with another DC Multiverse unboxing, and this is Superman from Action Comics. Isn't every Superman from Action Comics? He first appeared in Action Comics #1, so technically, yeah, every Superman is from Action Comics because that's where the original version came from. Look at this nice piece of artwork on the back. I think this is an unusual choice for a piece of artwork. But it's a really good piece of artwork, so I'm not really complaining about it. But you have like Clark Kent changing into Superman. That's a nice effect. Uh, Longtime viewers of the channel know that, like, in the time that I've been collecting these Mcfarlane figures, I've been on the hunt for the perfect classic Superman action figure. Is it going to be this one? I guess we'll find out. But we got more Superman action figures on the way that I've got pre-ordered. But they're going to be a while because they're pre-ordered. But I'm going to have a Christopher Reeve Superman. Going to have a 2-pack of Henry Cavill Superman versus Doomsday from Batman v Superman. You know I love that movie. And then we're going to have, oddly enough, a video game figure based on the 90s Justice League Task Force video game, which I did not expect. Hi, Aunt June. I figured you'd probably show up for this one since I figured you'd probably be awake right now. So anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and open him up. We've been over to this packaging for the Mcfarlane figures many times, so I don't feel the need to dwell on it too much. We already looked at the art on the back, so we got that good. So we're gonna have some more cool stuff coming up this week. I got a couple of different Green Lantern figures to look at, and some more DC Multiverse stuff. It's going to be a DC Multiverse week because I've got so much of that stuff to go through, but we've still got a lot more cool stuff for you to look forward to. If you want to make sure you don't miss it, make sure you like, subscribe, all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment, let me know what you think about this figure specifically and Superman in general. So here we go. There's the figure out of the package. And he looks pretty nice, doesn't he? And then something that makes me very happy, a couple of things that make me very happy, honestly. For one thing, we got a flight stand. You know I love flight stands, and I kind of feel like every action figure should come with a should come with an action figure stand, and every flying character should come with a flight stand. And as a bonus, the trading card is on the same plastic bubble as the stand. So that means it's going to be really easy for me to get this trading card off without damaging it. And you know I love that. All right, so get this bubble off of here. Shasha. And there's the stand itself. We can see it's got a little frosty DC logo kind of embossed on there. And then we just take the flight part of it and click it into our flight stand. So there we go. We got that all put together. It is a pretty nice Superman, isn't it? I think I'm going to be happy with how this one turned out. So, but we'll see if it's going to be my perfect classic Superman. I really enjoyed the classic Superman they did that was just called Classic Superman, and it had that kind of Kurt Swan looking head that I really liked, but the belt wasn't quite right. So it wasn't quite the great figure, but not perfect. And then, we had this one with the mullet. And, he's a little bulky because he's that Frank Miller body type. And he's got the mullet. But no, that's not quite what I'm talking about when I say a perfect classic Superman figure. And then we have the Jim Lee figure. And I wasn't really crazy about the head sculpt because it looks like a Jim Lee Superman. And not a classic Superman, really. And then plus his skin color is really weird and washed out looking, so that one didn't quite make it either. And then we have the Earth 2 Superman, but that's an Earth 2 Superman, not quite a vanilla type of classic Superman. So let's go ahead and read the back here. Superman Action Comics, that's what the back looks like. We can see the front has the same piece of artwork that we already saw. Real name Kal-El Clark Kent. The Man of Steel is not impervious to harm. He is weakened by kryptonite and will eventually die if exposed to it. He is weakened by tripping over this. He is weakened and will eventually die if exposed to kryptonite, radioactive remnants of his home world. He has no defense against magic, and his mind will succumb to sufficient psionic assault, but his real vulnerability is his dependence on yellow solar radiation. Deprived of it, he becomes a mere mortal. Who wrote the bio on the back of this thing? Lex Luthor? So, like, here's a list of ways to kill your action figure. What's up with that? You know, a lot of the times I'll be critical of the fact that, you know, they'll reuse the bios on these, but man, I wish they had to reuse the bio from one of the previous figures, because this one's just depressing. All right, so let's set that aside. Done with that. And Superman, like most typical Superman action figures, doesn't come with a whole wealth of accessories. Does he really need that many accessories, though? No, he's Superman. He's already, like, OP enough. We don't need to give him, like, you know, guns or swords or anything like that. But he does have a couple of accessories, which is some alternate hands. So these are more some flight hands, and they both look to be the same. Just, you know, obviously one's for the left and one's for the right. So there we go, some nice flight hands. Set those aside. And in terms of, like, his skin color, it is not as gray and washed out as the Hush Superman, but it's not quite as rosy as the mullet Superman either. It's kind of somewhere in between. It is the same head sculpt as the mullet Superman, only he has shorter hair and not the mullet. And I believe this was reused from a previous Mcfarlane Superman figure. I think it was the Action Comics 1000 figure that they put out. And something else that's nice about the way this figure is packaged is he seems to have only one rubber tab, which technically is a double rubber tab, but it's around his belt. So let's go. You can see it's just underneath his belt, so hopefully it won't mar that up too much. It does kind of overlap with the belt a little bit at the corners, so there I have that cut. Oh, that's almost a trash bag I got set up over here. And he has a nice wired cape. Really good colors on this figure. Like, this is kind of ideally how I like for Superman to be colored, with like a nice bright red, a vibrant but still somewhat dark blue. Not like a navy blue or anything like that, but like a cobalt blue. I kind of prefer the darker shades of blue to the more turquoise shades of blue. That's just me. So the colors really remind me most of, at least as far as the blue, kind of like the suit that Dean Cain wore on Lois and Clark. It's that kind of blue. It's a good Superman blue, but it's on the darker shade of what a Superman blue should be. If they made a Kingdom Come version of Royal Blue, that's a good way to put it. If they made a Kingdom Come version of Superman, I think that that would be a good shade. So I do suspect, and I never had the figure, so I don't know for certain. I suspect that a lot of this is reused from the Action Comics 1000 figure I was talking about. But he's got a wired cape, so that's a new thing. But looking at the figure, there's a lot about this figure that's kind of a throwback. Like, let's see, it's not the same as the Jim Lee. It's not the same as the Hush Superman. So I think that they reused a lot of this from the Action Comics 1000 figure that I don't have. But you can see the ankles. They're the cool McFarlane ball jointed ankles I'm always bragging about. But these are like the old school type of ball jointed ankles where they're they're literally ball joints. They don't have the like how some of these more modern versions of the ball jointed ankles kind of like with Nightwing here tend to kind of hide the fact that that's a ball joint. It still technically is a ball joint, but it more sort of conforms to the shape of the boot, whereas this one is definitely you can tell it's a ball joint just immediately. And he's not quite as bulky either as the Hush Superman. He's a little more lean. Looks like he skipped leg day. because you can see that his legs are not quite as powerful either. So, but that's okay. I think this is still like a pretty good Superman build. And just messing around with the articulation as it is, we can get him into like a pretty decent arms akimbo classic Superman pose. So, but not quite as well as I would like, and I'm gonna get to that in a minute when I get into discussing this articulation. So the skin color, like I said, is pretty good. It's like I said, not quite as rosy as the mullet Superman. I would prefer a warmer skin tone to what we have. He's a little on the pale side, but it's still not as bad as the skin color that Hush Superman had. So and then one other thing about the coloring that you might have noticed that I thought was interesting is they decided to go with like a really metallic red on the chest, and actually I think it doesn't look quite as metallic on the screen to me as it does in real life. But trust me, this is a nice shiny, like the paint is almost chrome. It's that shiny, not quite. It's probably one of the more metallic shades of paint that I've seen on a Mcfarlane figure so far. You can see it's very glossy, but I don't think that the camera is doing the shininess of it justice as far as like the metallic qualities of it go. So yeah, great colors on this. You can see that he does have the S shield on the back of the cape, and like how Mcfarlane tends to do, the S shield is like, you know, kind of oversized. I don't think it needs to be like quite as big as they made it on here, but it's you know, it's not as ridiculously huge as say the Earth 2 Superman's S shield was on the back of his cape, and he's got the wired cape, so we can get into some pretty dramatic poses. This is a very similar type of fabric to what we've seen on other Superman capes before, like the Earth 2 Superman, and Supergirl's cape was actually a very similar type of fabric to this, where it's not quite spandex, but something kind of similar to spandex is the best way I can think of to describe it. So let's go ahead and talk about his articulation. Besides the wired cape, Superman can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. Look up in the sky. Oh, oh, yeah. So Superman can tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, turn the head all the way around. He does have the butterfly joints at the elbows. The elbows at the shoulders. Sorry. So the shoulders can move forward about that far and move back about that far. They seem kind of stiff, actually. But technically, he does have butterfly joints. It's just like they're not wanting to move around that much. He does have bicep, so also the bicep rotates all the way around. He has single jointed elbows, which is another thing that makes me suspect that this is a throwback to an older figure that I don't have, that Superman 1000 figure, but that might explain why he has single jointed elbows instead of double jointed elbows, since that was, I think, the first Superman figure that was put out in this line. He's got the good Mcfarlane torso articulation, so we can move him around any which way. His wrists and his ankles are both, like I said, ball jointed. It's the cool Mcfarlane wrist joints that we're used to. You can see that again, since this is, I'm pretty sure the Action Comics 1000 Superman. He's got the kind of wristbands at the end of the sleeve, like that design of Superman has. He also has, like, I noticed looking at the sculpt, like some weird kind of random panels with some texture on it. And that, again, does seem like the sort of thing that Mcfarlane does a lot, especially when they were doing it a lot in the earlier part of the line. So that just seems like some extraneous detail that doesn't really need to be there. I'm sorry to be the guy who's going to explain, like complain about added detail to a figure, but as far as I'm concerned, with Superman, less is more. And you don't really want to have too many of those superfluous seams like the New 52 costume had, or the James Gunn costume, which is basically just the New 52 costume with trunks. I'm sorry. I see people say, "Oh, he looks like classic Superman now." No, he looks like New 52 Superman, but you put trunks on him. That's it. I'm not too impressed with that design. Sorry, fans of the James Gunn suit, but I am not among that number. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, good Mcfarlane torso articulation. Waist does rotate all the way around, of course. Superman can kick up about that far. Not quite 90 degrees, but pretty close to it. Again, it's got this rubber trunk piece on there, and that does kind of hinder somewhat the movement of the legs as far as that goes. Aesthetically, it looks good, but like I said, it does kind of hinder the articulation a little bit of give and take there. Superman does have double jointed knees, despite not having double jointed elbows. So that's about the range of motion you get at the knees. And then the ankle articulation, like I said, ball jointed, very obvious ball joint, like the old school ones. Superman can bend his ankle down about that far, bend his ankle up about that far. So better range of motion as far as bending it up than bending it down. And since it is the Mcfarlane ball jointed articulation, then he's got the rocker ankle kind of thing, and you can really move that ankle around any which way you want to. Great articulation at the ankles. So, and then of course the toe articulation just to show off. So we can get Superman into some pretty cool poses. I think we already saw that classic arms akimbo Superman pose. So why don't we get one of my other favorite Superman poses going here with the classic Kurt Swan flight pose. And it'd be a lot easier if that knee would cooperate. There we go. Get that ankle pointed down there. And the classic sort of Kurt Swan Superman flight pose. One fist forward, one fist back, one knee cocked. That's how Kurt Swan did it, and he's my favorite Superman artist. And if you're a little more old school than Kurt Swan, we can get him into the Wayne Boring flight pose, with that sort of thing where it almost looked like he was kind of running through the sky, kind of thing. Oh, we gotta get that cape all the way back for a Wayne Boring though. That's the Wayne Boring flight pose, at least as good as I can get it right now. Kind of get the ankles at just that right angle. Get the toes kind of pointed up. So again, it looks kind of like he's running through the sky, kind of thing. And for those who came in a little bit later than that, why don't we see if we can get the John Byrne kind of Superman flight pose going on. The arms kind of cocked out at the side, and both legs kicked back behind him. That's a little more like the John Byrne style of Superman flying. It's kind of cool how like lots of different artists have their own different interpretation of how Superman looks in flight, and he certainly could incorporate all these into his flight pattern. There's a nice like the that one kind of reminds me of the Dan Jurgens Randy Bowen statue from the 90s, like that kind of pose. Maybe get the chest a little more puffed out like that. Fans of Seinfeld will remember that was the Superman statue that Jerry had on his bookshelf. That Randy Bowen, based on the Dan Jurgens design, very cool figure. You get a lot of good poses out of him. I don't know if this is quite the perfect classic Superman figure, but it's pretty darn close. I'd say that this is about as close as a figure has gotten so far. The only thing that's holding you back from saying that this one is perfect is that he doesn't have double jointed elbows, and that's disappointing. I wish he had those double jointed elbows. But like I said, I suspect that this one is a repaint of that earlier Action Comics 1000 figure that I don't have. Well, repaint and a little bit of retooling to give him that wired cape. And the wired cape is definitely a plus. I love these wired capes that Mcfarlane's been given to their superhero figures lately. Yeah, it's very posable. So, and the articulation on this one, it does have kind of a seamless quality to it that's hidden by a lot of the anatomy and musculature of the character. I've seen a lot of people complaining recently about the Christopher Reeve figure that the articulation interferes with the sculpt too much, and they'll say things like it makes him look like a marionette or whatever. And like for me, it's a give and take kind of thing. You want to have good articulation, obviously, but at the same time, where do you draw the line as far as when the articulation interferes with the aesthetic? I do think that with figures that have like a bit more musculature sculpted into them, he does look good with this Batman, doesn't he? Probably would look best with the Detective Batman. So let's have a look at the world's finest team there. Pretty cool. We got the classic Superman and the classic Batman. They look really good together. So, but yeah, I do think that when you have a character that has a more detailed musculature, it helps to hide a lot of those joints a lot better. And with the Christopher Reeve figure, it was more based on how he actually looked in real life, and the spandex kind of compresses down the muscles. You don't really have that sort of cut look when you're wearing spandex because of that. So yeah, you gotta take the good with the bad, I guess. And I'm really looking forward to that figure, regardless. So we'll see what it looks like when I get it, and as to whether like Adam West Batman was another one that people were kind of critical of that with. Anyway, I highly recommend you pick this figure up if you're looking for a good classic Superman. Look no further. This one's a really good one to use. And if you prefer to have that Kurt Swan head on there from the other classic Superman, and I do really like that head sculpt. It might require a little bit of painting, because I think that one, so I don't have him handy right now, but I do think that one had a little bit more of a pinkish skin tone than this one. So, but you can figure it out, switch around whichever parts you want, and make your own definitive Superman figure, I suppose. But yeah, we've got a few more Supermans coming shortly that I'm looking forward to. So that's more reason to like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. If you're interested in seeing me talk about that, I'm pretty tired. It's about time for me to go to sleep. But tomorrow, which is to say, what is today now? I'm getting all mixed up because I've been working so much. So yeah, today's Monday. So Tuesday, I'm planning on coming back with Green Lantern. Although I don't know which Green Lantern I'm going to open yet. I think I'm probably going to open the Silver Age Hal Jordan. I've got like a few Green Lantern figures I need to open. Technically, I have 3, but I'm only going to shoot 2 videos. So if you're up on your Green Lantern action figures, you can probably figure out which the other one that I got was. So yeah, but that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this figure and the character of Superman in general. Personally, I think that Superman is, and probably always will be, the greatest superhero of all time. He's the guy that we owe the entire genre of superheroes to in the first place, of course. So if you're a fan of any superhero character, I don't care if it's Batman, I don't care if it's Wolverine, I don't care if it's the Punisher, I don't care if it's Spawn. Everybody owes this guy a debt. So even if you don't like Superman, you should probably respect Superman. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. Bye.